Our guest on this episode is an extraordinary example of the success of the thousands of graduates of ITM and UiTM who have been transformed with opportunity to become nation builders while carving their destiny in life. The stories of the various twists in his life journey is an inspiration to us all. Cuba Cerita welcomes Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Sri IR Dr. Sahol Hamid bin Abu Bakar to this series, The DNA of a Nation Builder. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Cuba Cerita. Thank you so much for joining us. Gosh, we've just gone over a month now since we started this podcast series, and it's been such a joy meeting all our guests and even getting your support. I'll be honest. When we started, obviously, we started to engage with people that Coach Azman memang dah kenal. For various reasons. One was that I wanted to make sure that we get off to a good start. We have authentic stories, and obviously our guests would want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, and it's in their interest also. But today, we have a guest who actually Coach baru saja berjumpa in recent weeks. But he came highly recommended as someone that we really should invite into the show, and we are so happy to have him today. And I really like to thank my sister-in-law Shireen Shariza for recommending him. Our guest today is a special person who has really contributed to the fabric of our nation, who has really helped thousands and thousands of young Malaysians, particularly the Malays and Bumi Putra, to get the best education and be an example of a leader. His name is not unknown to you, but I must, with due respect, read his name because his name is quite long. It's Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Sri IR Dr. Sahol Hamid bin Abu Bakar. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Saya yang ucap terima kasih.
It's a Friday, just for the viewers to know. That's why we're dressed in baju Tok Belanga. And I'm sure Puan Sri must be quite used to seeing you leave the house in the morning on Fridays.
I guna baju Melayu all the time, most of the time.
Okay.
Unless ada meeting.
Yeah.
Dalam meeting pun dah pakai baju Melayu.
Okay.
I'm so used to it.
Right. So Tan Sri, as you know, this podcast series is a new series where we examine leaders. Obviously, leaders like yourself have had great achievements, but what we are most intrigued and wanting to know about is the person within this leader that helped shape the person that this person became as that leader, that successful leader. So if you don't mind this morning, I'd like to maybe open conversations with questions and just really listen to Tan Sri's experiences and reflections, and hopefully these will resonate with our viewers and our listeners.
Please do go ahead.
So I always begin, Tan Sri, by asking, can you tell us a bit about Tan Sri asal daripada mana, and a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing, your formative years.
Saya asal daripada, boleh pakai bahasa Inggeris saya sebenarnya?
Campur-campur.
Campur, tak apa. I was born in Penang.
Mm-hmm.
Then I grew up in Penang.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school in Penang.
Mm-hmm.
And then after my MCE, masa tu tak sebut SPM, masa tu Senior Cambridge. Dah lama lah tu. I say you were not born kot.
No, I was actually. not too long after you, sir. Thank you for the compliment.
Then went to University Kramat lah.
University Kramat di?
ITM lah.
Oh, ITM. Okay. Tapi it was not in Datuk Kramat lah kot.
No. It was in Shah Alam lah. Sebab I selalu sebut ITM sentiasa di hatiku. UiTM sentiasa di hatiku. It's something that I love very much. Kan, so I call it University Kramat. So I studied in ITM, then became UiTM lah later. Then UiTM hantar saya ke luar negara. I studied in America. I supposed to do masters in engineering. Saya serentak buat 2 masters. Satu dalam bidang kejuruteraan, one more dalam bidang economics and management. Dan I balik ke UiTM sebab kontrak, sebab kena kerja ke UiTM. Dan walaupun saya kerja di UiTM, saya practice as an engineer. Sebelum saya tamat pengajian pun dekat UiTM, saya dah practice sebagai engineer. So I continue to practice walaupun because saya bukan terpaksa, dengan rela saya kerja dengan UiTM because ada kontrak. And then saya continue as a consultant dekat luar. But basically I'm still an engineer. I'm still practicing.
Through and through, eh?
Yeah, through and
Till
through.
today.
Till today. My thinking all is still like engineering.
Okay.
And then I rose up daripada UiTM from the penolong pensyarah dengan gaji 600 sampai jadi naik chancellor.
Okay.
Over a period of
And
step by
sampailah
step.
ke hari ni you are the Vice-Chancellor of
Yalah,
UiTM
itu
International.
kan dah lepas retirement semua tu, tak boleh duduk diam macam ni. Susah nak duduk diam. Kalau duduk diam mungkin dapat penyakit kot. So I have to think.
Yeah. So that in a nutshell was Tan Sri's quick summary of your career in terms of education.
Yes.
But Tan Sri,
Yes.
I'm most intrigued to meet you this morning because what I've read in this book of yours, Mencorak Destiny.
Ya, mencorak destiny.
Masya Allah. And I'll tell you, last night I stayed up late to watch on YouTube a movie also called Chowrasta, which actually is a story of your life. And I was amazed.
Actually, daripada buku tu.
Okay, alright.
Saya tak buat filem tu.
Okay.
Orang lain. Private sector yang ambil buku tu sebagai story. And syarat saya satu ialah jangan ubah story cukup lah.
Alright.
So dia follow lah.
Good. And so kalau boleh coach nak kata apa, nak korek-korek nukilan daripada buku ni, because I find the story is fascinating.
Yes.
And not to dramatize your life per se, but I believe there's a lot of inner messages and reflections which will relate to our audience irrespective of age. And sebagai satu contoh seorang insan, seorang muslimin yang alhamdulillah dengan rezeki Allah bagi mencorak hidup in a way that berjaya is relative, tetapi dengan insya-Allah dengan cara yang penghujung ceritanya memang cantik lah.
Betul, betul. Sebab saya anggap hidup saya kalau tak ada orang yang datang bantu saya, mungkin saya tak jadi seperti sekarang ataupun saya tak dapat pendidikan setinggi begini because ada pertolongan. I think I always say it's a divine intervention. Rezeki pada Tuhan dan juga doa mak saya. Dan saya tak lupa lah doa-doa student saya.
Alhamdulillah.
Itu adalah satu-satu yang saya anggap sebagai sangat berharga sebab student saya ramai yang doa untuk saya.
Alhamdulillah. So Tan Sri, saya coach minta maaf sekiranya I don't mean to go too personal, but again I'm using this book reference. Please. But I'm going to begin by talking about this book, and it's actually a bio novella.
It's bio novella.
And I just a quick in the opening prologue to this book, dia kata semoga setiap ganjaran dalam bio novella yang dapat dihayati dan kena pada tempatnya, bab peribahasa Melayu dalam berselam, cetek bertimba.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the first time I've heard that peribahasa.
But bahasa lama.
Bahasa lama secara umumnya, that particular phrase in one sentence to you as a reflection of your life, how does that bring meaning to you?
I was in the right place at the right time. I met the right people. The situation was right. And I capitalized on it. He said, you have to move forward. Benda tu tak datang.
You kena mencari juga.
You see, I always say, the door of opportunity is marked push. Kalau you tak tolak, you tak dapat. Ramai orang dapat peluang tapi tak menolak benda tu untuk capai sesuatu. Orang boleh tolong kita, yang mencapai kita. So kita kena tolak. So I was aggressive.
You were aggressive.
I was aggressive.
So tell me, there's a lot that's written in this book about your early childhood.
Yes.
Hutton Lane,
Transfer Road, Penang Road, Bakar Road.
and can you please share kenangan yang manis, yang mendugakan sewaktu daripada kecil Tan Sri dibesarkan di Hutton Lane?
Semasa saya kira sejak lahir lah kata, saya dalam kesusahan. Kan nak kata masa muda pun, masa baby pun saya hampir mati sebab demam panas. Itu pun berlaku. Dan masa berumur, saya tak ingat, tapi umur 5-6 saya boleh ingat. Masa 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 saya teringat pada nenek saya. Nenek saya more or less bela saya lah, kira daripada kecil kan. Mak saya ada, tapi kami daripada keluarga miskin. Dan bapa saya pula kerja di Kelantan dan jarang balik. Tak ada sekali balik macam tu lah. Tapi adik-adik saya ramai. Kan? Dan saya dah anak sulung. Bila anak sulung, kadang-kadang adik saya lapar, saya tahu. Umur 6 saya dah mula pergi minta sedekah. Saya akan pergi dekat kedai-kedai, minta lah kan. Dia akan bagi. Sebab balik, share dengan adik-adik. Kan, kadang-kadang makanan tertinggal, ada juga ayam tertinggal. Saya pernah ambil bawa balik, share dengan adik-adik saya. Hidup saya macam tu. Nak pergi sekolah, pakaian pun tak berapa, orang kata apa, tak ada lah nak kata pakaian kasut koyak. Jadi kalau you sebagai pergi sekolah, dan saya pergi pula sekolah Piket Methodist, saya seorang yang Melayu, yang lain semua Chinese. Ada kebaikan juga sebab saya pandai cakap Cina sekarang. Saya belajar daripada kawan-kawan saya. Hingga sekarang saya memang fasih cakap Cina. But saya katakan, orang lain semua pergi makan dekat kantin. Saya, cikgu akan bagi biskut. Cikgu saya Cina, tapi dia akan bagi biskut lah. Tapi kadang-kadang depends lah on the ni kan. Tapi susah lah kan, orang ejek saya. I was bullied lah. Bullied dekat sekolah kena bully, pergi luar kena bully. Sebab kawasan kami ni penuh dengan kumpulan-kumpulan gangsters. Dan kadang-kadang masa zaman dulu tu ada beza antara agama dan juga bangsa. Ini Malay gangster group, ini Indian gangster group, dan Chinese group. So kadang-kadang pergaduhan berlaku. Selalu berlaku. Dan kami dalam rumah saya ni kan macam rumah Piramli dulu-dulu tak? Dia ada kelamin, dia orang kata pintu-pintu. Dalam tu ada 20 pintu satu rumah. Toilet satu je. Wah, memang. Saya tak pernah tidur di dalam. Sebab bilik kecil pada ni tau bilik. Mak saya dengan anak-anak. Saya tidur di luar.
Berapa ramai adik-beradik?
9. Pada time tu 9 lah. Bukan masa kecil-kecil tak lah.
Yalah.
I slowly went up to 9 lah. But I was growing up 2-3, lepas tu naik. But the room is very small. Saya tidur luar dengan adik laki-laki tidur luar. Boleh kata sampai sekarang saya tak pakai selimut. Even now I tak pakai selimut. Dah biasa tidur begitu kan. Also it was a tough life lah. Very tough. Sekolah pun tough. But kat sekolah I didn't excel lah. Bila dalam kelas ada 30 budak, kalau I dapat 28 dah happy ya. Sebab 28, 29. Sebab I tak nak 30. So it was like that lah. Kan, I tak sangka. I never had a dream saya akan apa. I only had a dream nak jadi macam pakcik saya.
Your uncle?
My uncle was a don.
Yeah, this is the interesting part also I read. Calling your Pak Ngah,
Panggil Pak Ngah.
So ayah actually was a police officer.
Yes.
Dia kerja dengan polis, tapi
dia pindah
pindah ke Kelantan.
Di Kelantan dia kahwin dekat situ lagi. So itulah I warga ramai di Kelantan.
Oh. So you know adik-beradik juga sana.
Ya, tahu. So it's a difficult situation lah. Bukan I tak sayang ke ayah saya. Tapi I disappointed with him. Sebab dia difficult. Yang jaga saya was my uncle. My uncle was a father figure. Saya mana-mana dia pergi mai ikut. Tapi kebanyakan time dia masuk jail. Dia masuk keluar.
So this is the story that I was reading. Dia, yang saya faham, he was the ketua penarik beca apparently.
Ketua penarik beca, dia juga ketua geng yang jaga cabaret. Bouncers,
okay.
Bouncers for cabaret. And he trained me daripada umur 8. Sebab dia keluar daripada jail. Bila dia keluar daripada jail, I was happy lah. Then I used to tell him lah kan, I kena bully lah, Pak Ngah selalu kena tendang lah ni lah. Macam ni lah. I boleh ingat satu peristiwa yang berlaku. Masa tu I umur 8 tahun. Saya balik ke rumah penuh darah muka saya. Kan, sebab kena pukul, kena tumbuk kan. So mak saya kata apa tau? Siapa buat ni? Kita orang kat belakang tu buat. You know what mother say? Pergi lah, pakai habiskan budak tu. Kalau tidak jangan balik rumah. Oh, that's my mother. Lepas tu bukan tu ya, baling dengan tin, dengan kelapa kena kepala. Begitu my mother. So bila my uncle,
she was sad for you lah.
She was sad for me because
she's not a violent person, just that she was sedih lah tengok anak dia.
No, she's not violent, but she's very sad that I couldn't fight. So she always say, macam mana you nak jaga adik-adik kalau Hamid dia panggil kan, I panggil dia Cek. That's kami ni memang panggil Cek. Cek tak boleh buat apa mak. Hampir perhabis ke budak tu. So I pergi mengadu ke uncle.
Pak Ngah.
Now
just before you, and sorry, don't do it, but I just want to be clear here, because when I read the book, when I understand, can maybe translate, elaborate a bit more, what do you mean by gang and gangsters? Because I didn't see it as being orang jahat. There's something about their role in society at that time.
Actually kan, masa tu I tak tahu pun.
Okay.
I tahu kumpulan yang jaga orang Melayu.
Okay.
Because my uncle ni, walaupun dia tarik beca, dia bantu orang-orang dekat kampung. Kan, macam contohnya masa Hatal, masa tu ada Hatal sebelum Mei 13.
Okay.
Kan, Pulau Penang yang kena tutup dulu tu.
Rusuhan sikit kan.
Masa tu ramai yang tak ada makanan. Yang bawa makanan, my uncle yang berani keluar. Dia berani keluar, pergi kedai yang tutup tu, dia buka kedai, so mamak tu bagi. So kita bawa lah. Tapi macam dia orang kutip, orang kata kutipan pah lah kan. Duit tu dia ambil separuh, yang lain tu dia suruh beli barang bagi. So it's not a gangster lah. I nak orang panggil gangster lah.
Kan?
Masa tu polis pun panggil gangster. Tapi I don't think so. I tak reti pun benda tu gangster. Saya pergi kutip pau untuk pakcik I pun, Pak Ngah pun. I tak tahu. I ingat itu adalah kerja saya. Kerja untuk bantu pakcik saya tu. I didn't know. Kan, bila pergaduhan berlaku tu, at that time I was a bit afraid of a few things lah. Benda tu ni kan, but very violent. Kadang-kadang bergaduh macam tu. Kan.
This is all about territorial punya
territorial dan jual ni jual tu lah. Kan, pergi kutip ke ni tak boleh, kutip situ tak boleh. So I would not consider as gangsterism lah. I lebih kepada orang kata apa, Robin Hood lah.
You kan? Survival. That's a funny story about tiket wayang. Cuba tadi cerita.
Tiket wayang. Sebab we are very innovative dari segi apa, cari kata apa masa zaman dulu lah. Cari punca kewangan. Satu punca kewangan adalah pergi beli pagi-pagi. Sekarang ni restrictive. Dulu tak restrict. Because my uncle was controlling the area. Kami boleh beli 100 tiket sekali dia bagi. Kami kutip tiket wayang tu. Lepas tu, especially program malam. Kami jual lah. I ingat lagi I jual RM1, 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 RM1. 65 sen tiket, jual RM1. Dapat 35 sen.
Oh, so, buy those, sell high.
And then we will have about 5 people.
Yeah.
Kan, you know how much we get? We get a lot.
Each one with 100 tickets.
Not 100 tickets lah, but adalah kita jual tiket tu. So finally kita collect duit tu bagi ke pakcik saya. And then dia akan distribute lah. So that's how I survive. And then the best part is that I tak lapar dah. I boleh pergi kedai mana-mana pun I boleh duduk makan. Tak payah bayar. Itu I enjoy lah tu. And the other thing pakcik saya buat adalah dia bawa saya untuk dilatih dalam tomoy, Muay dekat kawasan tu ada. So I belajar lah Muay Thai.
For self-defense.
Actually my uncle was training me succession planning.
Oh, succession planning. Okay.
Ya lah, kita mana tahu. I tak tahu I nak pergi belajar pun. I didn't know.
So tomoy as in Thai
boxing.
Thai boxing.
And then sampai pergi tournament pun dapat wang, dapat duit. 8 hingga I stop pun masa nak kahwin. Masa nak kahwin,
which is many years later lah.
I got married 23, 24. My wife was 21.
So Tan Sri, those formative years were obviously a reflection on your life in general. There is a point in this book where things suddenly changed for you, and maybe then was another chapter that shaped your next destiny.
Oh, yes. I think peristiwa yang berlaku tu adalah masa pakcik saya meninggal, according to police report, accident. Tapi saya fikirkan bukan accident, dia kena bunuh. You see, but report becomes accident. So masa tu polis pun panggil saya, nasihatkan saya that saya have to be careful. And then polis pun minta saya bantu cara yang boleh. Dan masa tu saya ingat lagi pakcik saya paksa saya isi borang untuk masuk ITM. Orang ITM pernah datang dekat Pulau Pinang, jumpa orang kata dekat kampung cari budak Melayu. Masa tu pakcik saya ajak saya tak isi borang tu. Saya kata saya tak nak pergi. Memang tak nak pergi. Saya kata tak mau tinggal mak. Yang isi borang tu orang lain.
So I noticed also your uncle, walaupun he was the don, the gangster, and was in a way leading a life of his own. But banyak kali dalam buku dia suruh hang balik masa gaduh, dia suruh hang pergi belajar, jangan jadi macam kita. I mean that resonates to me.
Tapi saya tak boleh nak I cannot follow what he said because I dah tertarik dan seronok.
And he's your father figure kan?
My father figure. And furthermore, I takut dia kena ni. Ada 2-3 kali saya terpaksa protect dia. There were cases where I had to stand by. Walaupun I get beaten, but at least I saved him. Adalah.
So, obviously, sorry Tan Sri, there's another point that I was just crossing my mind. Ayah Tan Sri seorang anggota polis.
Yes.
Asal daripada Penang. Walaupun dia ke
Kelantan,
Timur, Kelantan, Terengganu. How does that connect when his brother-in-law is the lead of the gangster? Is it tak maaf lah, in reflection now, is it like an understanding?
It's not understanding. My father actually tolong my uncle many times. Daripada masuk. Masuk pun dia keluar cepat lah. Adalah.
Maybe your father also knew that he would also maybe protect the family, take care.
He knows that my uncle take care of the family because my mother is the sister who brought him up also. My partner was brought up by my mother. So I think that's ni lah. But life was like that lah.
So when he died,
that was a turning point. That was my turning point.
So what in reflection, apa orang kata perasaan Tan Sri yang boleh dikongsikan sekarang, and maybe that was orang kata apa satu apa chapter in your life that in reflection now change how you saw things.
In fact, dalam movie tu they didn't show my uncle, but actually my uncle died then only I went to UiTM. Dalam movie tu they dramatize it in a different way.
Yeah, but they did portray that you were somewhere else trying to tackle, but then he was being surrounded.
Yeah, but actually, after he died, my mother also said, "Go." He said, "Go. You must go." He said, then only I left. He said, I remember my mother beli apa tau, Hazelin Snow.
Hazelin Snow.
Dalam
apa sapu?
Dia suruh sapu jadi baby putih. Mak saya selalu panggil saya baby putih.
Well, you're quite fair, what, Tan Sri?
Yalah, bila duduk dekat Pulau Pinang, tiap-tiap hari dalam pantai, dan belajar motai dekat pantai, you look dark. But that's why my mother kata, you ni baby putih.
Pakai Hazelin Snow.
Pakai Hazelin Snow.
Zaman sekarang tak ada dah Hazelin Snow kot.
Tak ada lah.
Macam blue cream.
Actually, I pakai baju Snow mungkin pasal tu kot tak ada jerawat. I tak ada jerawat.
Tak ada jerawat. Okay. Betul. Promo.
Dah bermata.
Hazelin Snow is sponsoring this episode.
Itu tak ada dah pun. Mana ada.
Kan tak ada dah.
Tak ada.
So, okay. So, I mean, there's a lot to be learned from that experience, but I also know that from what I read, you were quite angry with life, eh?
I was an angry young man. I think partly because of I nampak orang Melayu tertindas. Kan, my mother selalu kata, Amir, bila dah besar, jaga orang Melayu. And then one thing mak saya ni kan, every night kalau kami nak tidur kan, I akan tidur sebelah mak saya. Dan mak saya selalu cerita tentang Khalid Al-Walid. Dia selalu cerita pasal perang-perang dan cerita Rasulullah. Semua tahu kan, saya sangat tertarik dengan Khalid Al-Walid. Sampai saya ingat saya Khalid Al-Walid. Bila saya masuk gelanggang untuk tomoy, I go there to kill.
Wow. Semangat tu.
Semangat tu. My uncle knows that I believe in Khalid Al-Walid. So dia kata, you naik atas, you Khalid Al-Walid ni. You naik atas ni. You habiskan budak tu.
And also to defend yourself.
So, semangat yang nak fight tu, warrior, it was psychologically, without realizing, termasuk dalam I punya ni. So, that's why I kata kita ni, anak-anak kita ni masa kecil jangan takutkan hantu. Jangan takutkan lipas. Bagi cita-cita.
Dah dewasa pun takut lipas lagi.
Ya, itu yang susah ni. Kan, my mother tak. My mother dia kata, kalau I kata ada tikus mak, dia kata pergi tangkap tikus tu. You ask, pergi tangkap no. I tak takut. I sampai sekarang tak takut hantu. Sebab orang pernah challenge saya. Dia kata, you budak-budak kawan Cina lah. Dia kata, you sleep dekat Chinese, ni I bagi RM20. So I went and slept. I slept tidur elok kan. Besok dapat RM20.
Dapat RM20.
Tak takut. Sebab I don't have fear now. That is the one that made me an angry young man. I tak takut. And then I believe I'm Khalid Al-Walid. That kind of psychology tu, kalau kita tanam, maybe that made me a leader lah. Actually, my leadership journey is from I was young. No?
Can you reflect in
reflection? Yeah, well, leadership is not born.
Yeah.
Leaders are not born.
You develop.
You develop based on circumstances, and then based on your bravery, you're willing to stand. But actually, can even an angry young man, sometimes you lose compassionate. No, that one I learned as I went along. That you have to have. You might have intelligence, but you do not have emotional intelligence. You cannot be a leader. You cannot be a leader.
And I think, Tan Sri, again, reading from this book that it's a lovely book. I recommend our viewers and listeners to try and get a hold of this book if they can. There's a lot of people who, in your life, showed compassion to you.
Oh yes.
Minta maaf if I don't get the details correct. Even when you were in ITM. Okay, so what I read from the book is that you were seorang yang Yeah, okay. It was like the first batch, I believe, 1970 or something at that time. Baru buka lah ITM and
Baru Shah Alam.
Shah Alam, okay. And then you were angry, not and disillusioned, because not so much as you didn't want to study, but you were worried about your family back home, your mak dengan adik-beradik. So you know, unfortunately, and then you work on the construction site.
Yes.
Masa belajar, you missed classes, but there were lecturers, or there was a lecturer who was compassionate about you.
Yes. Actually, her name is Miss Tan.
Miss Tan.
Dia duduk
yes.
ke TTDI.
Iya, macam ada lagi?
Ada lagi.
Allahu Akbar.
She was in Canada. Dia baru balik lah few years ago. So, I pergi jumpa dia lepas.
Iya.
So, I pergi jumpa dia.
Alhamdulillah.
And then Miss Tan ni was my physics teacher. She believed in me. Dia percaya saya boleh berjaya. I can become what I want. But only thing is that the poverty, and then I had to kerja supaya support my family kan. So when I was kicked out of UiTM, I kerja ke kontrak. Lepas tu lah yang ada peristiwa yang berlaku yang ubah hidup saya tau. Peristiwa tu masa tu bukan dekan, head of department bagi tahu saya, you have to leave UiTM, pack your bags and go. You failed. You cannot register. So I nak balik daripada KL naik kereta api Sinaran Express orang panggil. Sinaran Express 12 jam tu.
Express.
Masa perjalanan tu seorang pakcik mai duduk sebelah saya. Dia ingat lagi pakai songkok hitam, baju Melayu hitam, kain pelikat. Kan dia pakai slipper ya. Ingat lagi dia pakai slipper. Dia nampak saya, dia tanya lah kan, why are you crying? Dia tanya dalam bahasa Melayu lah, kenapa nak nangis ni? So, saya cerita lah, I told him, saya nak belajar jadi engineer, tapi tak ada harapan dah. Saya dibuang. Lepas tu dia tanya, awak nak jadi engineer? Betul. Saya kata, ya pakcik. Kan, kalau saya boleh belajar semula, saya akan belajar. Kan? Lepas tu pakcik tu tanya, saya nak tanya soalan kepada you. Dia kata, first question dia ask, awak percaya kepada Allah tak? Saya kata, saya percaya pakcik, memang saya orang Islam. Soalan kedua, awak solat tak? Saya cakap betul lah, kadang-kadang tak pakcik. Jarang pakcik, saya pernah cakap jarang. Dia kata itu adalah satu kesilapan. Awak mesti tak boleh tinggal solat. You have to pray. And then dia ada sebut juga tambahan tentang solat tahajud. Dia tambah later on. I tak pernah tulis dalam buku tu. Dia suruh I belajar lepas semain tahajud. And then the third question, awak sayang ibu tak? Oh, saya sangat sayang pada ibu. Dia kata ramai zaman masa itulah tak hormat ibu. Dan dia ceritalah kita kena sayang pada ibu supaya ibu akan doa. Doa itulah akan selamatkan dia. Yang soalan keempat dia tanya, awak suka ke tolong budak-budak miskin? Saya kata saya miskin pakcik, tolong saya pakcik. InsyaAllah saya berjaya, saya akan tolong. So 4 peristiwa ni ubah nasib saya.
Allahu Akbar.
Ya, lepas tu saya balik lepas 2 minggu, pensyarah nama dia Miss Tan datang ke rumah saya, jumpa mak saya.
Daripada di Penang?
Daripada KL datang.
Dia datang ke Penang?
Ya, dia datang Penang, cari rumah saya. Lepas tu dia bagi RM100 dekat mak saya. Mulai sekarang dia akan hantar RM100. Masa tu RM100 tu macam RM1,000 lah.
Ya nah.
Kan? Dia kata Hamid, bukan nama dia orang panggil Hamid. Hamid kena belajar. Dia tak boleh kerja. So I got back into ITM. Kan? I got back into ITM. Dengan guidance Miss Tan ni. I excel. I became top student.
Masya Allah.
Sampai dapat beasiswa bagi Amerika Syarikat.
Yeah.
I went to Colorado. Dan masa itulah saya buat masters. Orang lain buat 1, saya buat 2 sekali. Satu dalam civil engineering, satu lagi dalam bidang economics and management.
Wow.
You see? And that changed my life.
This was under the maybe scheme latihan akademik?
Yes, latihan akademik. Tenaga pengajar muda.
Tenaga pengajar muda.
TPM. That was the first group lah. So that changed my life. So saya sangat hutang budi kepada UiTM. Sebab itulah saya yang mulakan UiTM di HatiKu masa saya naik Chancellor. So UiTM di HatiKu tu maksud dia tu. Sayang pada ITM, sayang pada UiTM. Jangan lupa jasa UiTM. You jaya macam mana pun, you tak boleh bayar balik.
Kan.
Yes.
Kan.
So that is my spirit until now. I will never forget UiTM. I will always continue to help UiTM. Sebab that spirit of cannot be erased lah. Sampai saya pun nak buat satu lagu untuk UiTM, Destiny Anak Bangsa. Dan saya kata darah yang mengalir.
Allahu Akbar.
Darah UiTM.
Darah ITM.
Dari UiTM. So that semangat tu kan, that created that itu yang mulakan program called Yayasan Destiny Anak Bangsa.
Yayasan Destiny Anak Bangsa.
Seperti saya dulu, ada orang cari saya bagi peluang. Saya dengan kumpulan-kumpulan pensyarah bagi rata-rata dekat kampung-kampung cari budak-budak. Lepas tu kami bawa letak ke ni. Sekarang saya dah besarkan benda tu. Saya jadi pengurusi chairman. Mengubah Destiny Anak Bangsa ditukar kepada Prihatin. Yayasan Prihatin. Dan Yayasan Prihatin adalah unit banyak volunteers yang pergi cari budak-budak miskin dan kita bagi masuk ITM ataupun universiti-universiti lain. Sekarang akses ke universiti lain. Sebab asal dia nak belajar, kita bagi. So, Yayasan is a very big organisation now. Tapi kami funding kami cari sendirilah.
Okay.
Like contohnya, we do a lot of crowdfunding. Ataupun kami organize concert. David Foster tu kami buat.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yang Aina Abdul.
Oh, so this is a huge fundraising activity.
Yeah,
maybe what we could do is that, if you don't mind, we will also portray the Yayasan punya details on our screen, and by all means, if our viewers and listeners are willing to please contribute towards the foundation.
Yayasan Prihatin, we have a proper audit system that we have clean audit all the time. I'm very particular about that also. So yang Rosa concert, Cakrakan.
Wow, these are big.
But we don't get a lot of money because the main sponsor will get it. But Prihatin become sebahagian daripada event manager lah. So benda tu ada dekat UiTM still wujud.
Tan Sri, fantastic stories, and I guess we could spend hours and hours on doing this. Actually, are you an academician or are you pentadbir? The reason why I ask that question is because I also read dalam buku ni, and I know of you that you actually physically practice as an engineer. You're not a theorist, and you even to the point of building so many campuses of ITM.
Yes.
How did that come about?
I'm an engineer.
You're an engineer, okay, and
fully engineer, but academic is sebab I hutang budi pada UiTM.
Okay.
So saya kena serve.
Okay.
That's why I'm still an academician. But in practice, even though masa saya I was a lecturer, I was practicing already. I was also put in charge of pembangunan. So I was responsible of building so many campuses. You see, that's the thing. And I'm still a consultant. I do a lot of consultancy in Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, in fact, I have my own IP also, which was registered, and then I sold my rights also. You see? So I'm a practicing engineer until now. I still practice. That's why I carry the word IR.
Yeah. And it's
IR is you have to register all the time.
To
see how much work you have done, so that you can carry the title. So I continue. I'm an engineer.
Any of your children became engineers?
Yes. My daughter is a PhD in structural engineering, like my wife. My wife is also an engineer.
Possibly for engineer juga?
Yeah, she's a professor in tall buildings. They specialize in tall buildings.
So you met in campus. She was, I read from the book, she was
I met her. She was not my classmate, my junior.
Junior.
My junior. She's
junior ni.
younger than 2 years younger than me.
2 years younger.
2 or 3 years younger than me. My daughter, yes, she's specialized in bridge engineering, long beams, pre-stressed beams, and also steel structures. She's an engineer.
So Tan Sri, I don't mean to us to tell to be orang kata apa, we are from a generation. Fine, that was around for years. I don't mean to say that it's any different, but since you've been in this line for so many years, what do you see in today's generation, positives, that is different from how it was when, our formative years? But I want to talk about positives.
Positive, I think, like during my time, I think, even though there was no access to internet or anything, but I read a lot.
Okay.
I do read a lot. You see, another thing that turned my life around was one book, which I bought 40 years ago. It's called Power of the Subconscious Mind. Okay. I read the book 3-4 times actually.
Sorry, Tansi, my question is actually, what do we see in positives of today's younger generation?
Today's younger generation, they have a lot of access to multimedia and all that. I'm doing that. I'm saying this because of my granddaughter.
Okay.
My granddaughter watches TV, and she has so much information for a 11-year-old. I think at that 11-year-old, I didn't have anything compared to what she knows now. You see, that's one thing. But the other thing is that I'm happy to say majority of Melayu can raise the children not in poverty. That is a lot of positiveness there. Like masa zaman kami, we live in poverty now. You see, but nowadays I think they're able to survive on their own. And I think the families also can afford it and all that. Dulu kami nak pergi holiday, we don't have any opportunity. Nak pergi naik kapal terbang was next to impossible.
Okay.
But now I think everybody is okay. But I think the school system also, you see, the last time the school system was a bit different. Now it's a bit different, but it's up to the students to. The good ones will get it.
Yeah.
You see, but that's the positive of the students too. But actually, there are a lot of negative also. But I don't want to talk about the negative part. Let's talk about the positives.
Let's talk about positives. And Alhamdulillah, what I've also seen, Tan Sri's efforts and all the people behind UiTM, is UiTM has continued to evolve, to become relevant, to change. It's not just an institution.
How many graduates we have graduated? 1 million.
1 million?
Yes, we reached 1 million already.
Imagine,
I go anywhere at a bank, I will get special treatment because they know it's me.
So it's an example of a success story.
Oh yes, it's very successful. UiTM is one of the best thing the government have done.
In fact, I would say even globally.
Globally,
let's not be ashamed lah. Kan bukan kita nak banggakan diri, tapi alhamdulillah, I'm not from UiTM, but that's my destiny. But I've seen a lot of colleagues and successful people. Success is a measure by different standards, but secara umumnya lah.
Yeah.
Okay, the other point also, I think just again, not trying to give too much advice to a generation which has got different sets of challenges today, tapi what would be one or two reflections for today's generation to be more aware of as they encounter their life and they go through the challenges that they have today? What would be your maybe 2 pointers?
Because I have noticed among my grandchildren also. I have 7.
7 grandchildren.
7 grandchildren. I've noticed that I taught them how to think.
Teach them how to think.
Because nowadays a lot of our young kids don't think carefully. They don't think in the sense of they are too emotionally inclined. When you are emotionally inclined, you become emotionally stupid. Sorry to use the word now. And you make wrong decisions now. that's the biggest problem I've seen, even in the universities also. I've seen a lot of students too emotionally inclined without thinking now. They have to think. But the thing is that a lot of things happen to me. Being an engineer, I think differently now.
Okay, for example?
Before I make decision, I put all the variables. I look at the end product, what I want. And I look at what I have. And I put all the variables and visualize whether I will reach that point or not. In engineering, it's like that. That's one thing I use in my daily life.
Okay.
You have to do, but these are the thinking methods which are not available dengan budak-budak sekarang ni. They're too fast to make decision. Even some of them make wrong decision when they want to choose a wife. Sorry lah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give one example I can give. Okay. I'm just giving you. I've talked to a lot of people. Okay. I said they had a few people. I mean, they're too emotionally inclined. They do not see if they marry this person what will happen in the future. You should be able to visualize. I mean, you can go to that extent. We should visualize now. It's not that you got many choices. The ladies also got many choices. The men also got many choices.
Okay.
But how they want to choose their partner. Is it?
So what, using engineering
Simulation.
means? Simulation. Okay. Dulu kalau simulation pun kita tengok, okay, ni orang utara ke orang selatan, raya lah katakan. That's one simulation lah.
I will look for the nose.
You look for the nose, okay. Okay. Ini semua bukan in hindsight lah Tan Sri. Tapi actually kan, I'll be frank, dalam buku tu ada juga cerita. Tapi let the listeners get the book.
What I'm trying to say is that think ahead, don't jump into conclusion.
Yeah, but I think the pressure today pun, because everything happens so fast. Information is at your fingertips. So I guess there is the pressure to make fast decisions, and it's not easy to just try and pause and reflect.
No, but you don't have much. You tak payahlah masa banyak sangat, cepat je. Kalau you practice this kind of thinking, eventually it becomes very fast.
Okay.
People say intuition. It's nothing to do with intuition. It has to do with memory. Your memory and all that. Actually, I would say your brain is working like an AI now.
Yeah.
It's not artificial intelligence actually.
It is intelligence.
It's intelligence Allah has given us.
Yeah.
See, that intelligence tak pakai. You guna lah. Intelligence. Alhamdulillah, I guna. But nothing is perfect lah.
Yeah.
I also make mistake.
So tell me, in hindsight now, if you had one or two, I always ask this question to all my guests, if you could turn back the clock, what do you think in reflection you may have done differently? Just maybe one or two examples.
Actually, I wouldn't turn back the clock because what I went through in life, poverty has taught me a lot of things.
All right.
Being involved with my uncle taught me leadership. Being a fighter, as a warrior, taught me courage. Otherwise I can be a sissy boy lah. I don't want to be a sissy boy. I became a tough guy, like gila me tough.
Mentally and physically.
So why should I change that?
Yeah.
Of course, at that time it was suffering, but that suffering is something that what I am now. I wouldn't have chosen any other university except UiTM. Actually, UiTM chose me.
Chose you. They came looking for you.
No, they came looking for me. So why should I change?
Yeah.
I studied UiTM. They gave me all the thing, and they let me practice as an engineer. I continue practice as an engineer, which I wanted. Why should I? I have 3 kids, all well graduated. Actually, a successful concept of a man is what? Whether all your children have succeeded or not. If all your children have succeeded, that means you have succeeded.
Sure.
Not you have succeeded. No, you have in overall succeeded. Is it? So why should I turn back the clock? Like I have a wonderful wife who understand me. She sacrificed a lot for me. Is that she sacrificed a lot because I was everywhere. Who's taking care of the house? My wife take care. Even though she's a professor in engineering, she took care of the house, took care of the children. So why should I turn the clock around?
Okay, Tan Sri, I think, mengambil sempat hari Jumaat, hari ini, kebetulan pagi Jumaat, and then there's a lot of stories about your parents and all those who help you. Maybe kita ambil kesempatan, kita baca sedekahkan surah Fatihah Ummul Kitab kepada arwah-arwah kita sebelum kita yang telah membantu mendidik kami, dan insya-Allah semoga Allah meletakkan mereka bersama-sama yang beriman di tempat yang terbaik, insya-Allah. Tan Sri, terima kasihlah banyak-banyak. It's a pleasure, and as I said, we can go on hours and hours, and maybe there will be another opportunity to have you on again.
I would like you to talk to me about leadership.
Okay, we will.
Yeah, that is another chapter of my life where I think I should share.
Yeah.
How did I hold so many positions?
Okay.
And I'm still working now.
Yeah, I can see that. And
I'm still working.
You don't look your age. So alhamdulillah, Allah rezekikan.
I think I don't look my age because I got punch on my face many times.
Pasal Vaseline snow.
I always think it's because of the punches I get on my face during boxing.
Okay.
Tegang, muka dia tegang.
So terima kasih Tan Sri. InsyaAllah till we see you again. Sekali lagi terima kasih kepada our viewers and listeners for joining us today. We hope that the stories touch your heart too and will be an inspiration for you too. Everyone has their story. Semua orang ada cerita. Jadi insyaAllah sehingga kita bertemu lagi. Salam sejahtera. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi and have a good rest of this year 2024. Assalamualaikum.